Siddhaswarupaya Hare Krishna Krsna Paramahamsa Govinda Jaya Gauranga. Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya, Hare Krishna Krsnaya Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya.
Sorry, Bol, Namaste. Let's continue our study program. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastate Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Garadha Shubhasadiko Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll finish reading the pastimes of Lord Balaram after killing Dantabarka and Romar Sansuta and Balbala demon. So he traveled in the holy places. While going to Vishnu Kanchi, Lord Balaram also visited Siva Kanchi. After visiting Rangashetra, he gradually proceeded towards Mathura, commonly known as the Mathura of southern India. After visiting this place, he gradually proceeded toward Setabanda. Setabanda is the place where Lord Ramachandra constructed the stone bridge from India to Sri Lanka, Ceylon. Very nice pastimes of Lord Krsna, killing of Ravana, Lord Ramachandra. Sometime we'll read and hear the narration of these pastimes. In this particular holy place, Lord Balaram distributed 10,000 cows to the local Brahmana priests. It is the Vedic custom that when a rich visitor goes to any place of pilgrimage, he gives in charity to the local priests gifts of horses, cows, ornaments, and garments. This system of visiting places of pilgrimage and providing the local Brahmana priests with all necessities of life have greatly deteriorated in the age of Kali. The richer section of the population, because of its degradation in Vedic culture, is no longer attracted by these places of pilgrimage, and the Brahmana priests who depended on such visitors have also deteriorated in their professional duty of helping the visitors. These Brahmana priests in the places of pilgrimage are called Panda or Pandit. This means that they formerly were very learned Brahmanas and used to guide the visitor in all details of the purpose of coming there, and that both the visitor and the priest were benefited by mutual cooperation. It is clear from the description of Srimad Bhagavatam that when Lord Balaram was visiting the different places of pilgrimage, he properly followed the Vedic system. After distributing cows at Setabanda, Lord Balaram proceeded towards the Kritamala and Tampara Parni rivers. These two rivers are celebrated as sacred, and Lord Balaram bathed in both. He then proceeded towards Malaya Hills. This Malaya Hill is very great, and it is said that it's one of the 7 peaks called the Malaya Hills. The great sage Agatya used to live there, and Lord Balaram visited him and offered his respect by bowing down before him. After taking the sage blessing, Lord Balaram, with the sage permission, proceeded towards the Indian Ocean. At the point of the cape, there is a big temple of the goddess Durga, where she is known as Kanyakumari. This temple of Kanyakumari was also visited by Lord Ramachandra, and therefore it is to be understood that the temple has been existing for millions of years. From there, Lord Balaram went on to visit the pilgrimage city known as Palganutirtha. So the process, the descending method, is continuing eternally. So the pastimes here, you can be very safe and with clarity understand how the message is being transmitted. The message or the narrative or the story of the pastimes of goddess Durga, when in the Vedic culture or Vedas that was discussed thousands and millions of years, it is coming through disciplic succession, through oral reception. The Vaishnavas or the spiritual master, the perfect disciple, can hear orally and receive the message transmitted to him verbatim and not forget. And he can pass it on as it is. And why? Because the representative of God is not different from God. Lord Krsna states in Bhagavad Gita, from me comes remembrance and forgetfulness. So he remembers past, present, and future. So the spiritual master, his representative is not different from him. His dearmost friend. From there, Lord Balaram went on to visit this pilgrimage known as Palganutirtha, which is on the shore of the Indian Ocean or the Southern Ocean. Palganutirtha is celebrated because Lord Vishnu, its incarnation of Ananta, is lying there. From Palganutirtha, Lord Balaram went on to another pilgrimage spot known as Panchasarasa. There also he bathed according to the regulative principle and observed the ritualistic ceremonies. This site is also celebrated as the shrine of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Balaram distributed 10,000 cows to the local Brahmana priests. From Cape Kamurin, Lord Balaram turned toward Kerala. The country of Kerala is still existing in southern India under the name of South Kerala. After visiting this place, he came to Gochana Tirtha, where Lord Shiva is constantly worshipped. So Lord Balaram is touring all the holy sacred places. Then he visited the temple of Arya Devi, which is completely surrounded by water. From that island, he went on to a place known as Suparaka. After this, he bathed in the river known as Tapi, Payosni, and Nirbinja. And he came to the forest known as Dantakaranya. This is the same Dantakaranya forest where Lord Ramachandra lived when he was in exile. Lord Balaram next came to the bank of the river Narmada. The story of Narayan, somewhere along this year, we're gonna read that story of Lord Ramayana and the story of Lord Rama. When Balaram returned to Prabhasa Tirtha, he heard from the Brahmanas that most of the Kshatriya in the battle of Kurukshetra had been killed. So the news came to him that the battle, the fight in Kurukshetra is finished. Balaram felt relieved to hear that the burden of the world had been reduced. Lord Krishna and Balaram appeared on this earth to lessen the burden of military strength created by the ambitious Kshatriya kings. This is the way of materialistic life. Not being satisfied by the absolute necessities of life, people ambitiously create extra demand, and their illegal desires are checked by the laws of nature or by the laws of God, appearing as famine, war, pestilence, and similar catastrophes. Lord Balaram heard that although most of the Kshatriya had been killed, the Kurus were still engaged in fighting. Therefore, he returned to the battlefield just on the day Bhimasena and Duryodhana were engaged in a personal duel. As a well-wisher of both of them, Lord Balaram wanted to stop them, but they would not stop. Duryodhana and Bhimasena are his two dear students. He taught them how to fight with club. And now they are having this duel because in the battle of Kurukshetra, both of them they have this rivalry. And when Lord Balaram came there, he saw them fighting, having this duel to death. When Lord Balaram appeared on the scene, King Yudhishthira and his young brother Nakula, Sahadeva, and Lord Krishna and Arjuna offered him their respectful obeisances. But they did not speak at all, so they were all silent while the fight is going on. The reason they were silent was that Lord Balaram was somewhat affectionate towards Duryodhana, and Duryodhana had learned from Balaram the art of fighting with a club. Thus, when the fighting was going on, King Yudhishthira and others thought that Balaram might come there to say something in favor of Duryodhana, and they therefore remained silent. Both Duryodhana and Bhimasena were very enthusiastic in fighting with clubs, and in the midst of large audience, each was very skillfully trying to strike the other. While attempting to do so, they appeared to be dancing. But although they appeared to be dancing, it was clear that both of them were very angry. Lord Balaram, wanting to stop the fighting, said, "My King Duryodhana and Bhimasena, I know that both of you are great fighters and are well known in the world as great heroes. But I still think that Bhimasena is superior to Duryodhana in bodily strength. On the other hand, Duryodhana is superior in the art of fighting with a club. Taking this into consideration, my opinion is that neither of you is inferior to the other in fighting. Under the circumstances, there is very little chance of one of you being defeated by the other. Therefore, I request you not to waste your time in fighting in this way. I wish you to stop this unnecessary fight." The good instruction given by Lord Balaram to both Bhimasena and Duryodhana was intended for the equal benefit of both of them. But they were so enwrapped in anger against each other that they could only remember their long-lasting personal enmity. Each thought only of killing the other, and they did not give much importance to the instruction of Lord Balaram. Both of them then became like madmen in remembering the strong accusation and ill behavior they had exchanged with one another. Lord Balaram, being able to understand the destiny which was awaiting them, was not eager to go further in the matter. Therefore, instead of staying, he decided to return to the city of Dwarka, so he left. When he returned to Dwarka, he was received in great jubilation by relatives and friends, headed by King Ugrasena and other persons. All of them came forward to welcome Lord Balaram. After this, he again went to the holy place of pilgrimage at Naimisaranya, and the sages, saintly persons, and brahmanas all received him standing. They understood that Lord Balaram, although a Kshatriya, was now retired from the fighting business. The brahmanas and the sages were always for peace and tranquility, were very pleased at this. All of them embraced Balaram with great affection and induced him to perform various kinds of sacrifice on the sacred spot of Naimisaranya. So he came back to the Naimisaranya sacrifice. After Lord Balaram had no business performing the sacrifice recommended for ordinary human beings, he is the supreme personality of Godhead, and therefore he himself is the enjoyer of such sacrifice. As such, his exemplary action in performing sacrifice was only to give a lesson to the common man to show how one should abide by the injunction of the Vedas. So he's giving setting an example how we should follow the Vedas, the teachings of the Vedas. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Balaram, instructed the sages and saintly person at Naimisaranya on the subject matter of the living entities, relationship with the cosmic manifestation, on how to accept this whole universe and how one should relate with the cosmos in order to achieve the goal of perfection. The understanding that the whole cosmic manifestation is resting on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all-pervading, even within the minutest atom, by the function of his Paramatma picture. So, after understanding your true identity as transcendental, your true nature, our true nature as spirit, soul, life, then when we make progress in our quest for getting closer, doing the will of God, when this Paramatma realization, we can see the Lord, all the living entities, and the Lord everywhere, who is all pervading. Just like the sun, the sun rays is pervading. Lord Balaram took the Abarta bath, which accepted after finishing sacrificial performance. After taking his bath, he dressed himself in new silken garments and decorated himself with beautiful jewelry amidst the luminary in the sky. Lord Balaram is the personality Godhead of Godhead Ananta himself. Therefore, he is beyond the scope of understanding by the mind, the intelligence, or body. He descended exactly like a human being and behaved in that way for his own purpose. We can only explain of his unlimited demonstration of his pastime because he is all-powerful. Lord Balaram is the original Vishnu. Therefore, anyone remembering the pastimes of Lord Balaram in the morning and evening will certainly become a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, his life will become successful in all respect. So from this narrative, we can understand that every activity or activities performed by the Supreme Person, it is about his pleasure and making us close to him and experiencing his affection and love. So, this week, the topic we discussed was about the importance of accepting a bona fide spiritual master and listening from him. So he can teach us about how we can progress towards pleasing the Supreme Person. Someone who is loving God can teach us how we can be in loving affection with the Supreme Person, in relating to him, in pleasing him, and being in harmony with his pleasure. And that is about us rendering pure loving devotional service. That is the teaching of Lord Jesus Christ, the first commandment: love the Father with thy whole heart, thy whole mind, thy whole being. So I'd like to discuss here something about the importance of accepting a bona fide spiritual master. We discussed last time the qualification of a bona fide spiritual master. So Saint Prabhupada discussed with King Nimi one of the qualifications, only one of the innumerable qualifications, that the spiritual master has no material consideration. He's master of the senses. He can control the urge to speak, the urge of the mind, the urge of the belly, the urge of the genital. And the urge he's speaking is simply about the transcendental activities and pastimes of the Supreme Person, and how we can be connected in harmony with loving and pleasing the Supreme Person. That is one qualification of a bona fide spiritual master. He has no material consideration. Here, I'd like to discuss here the advice of Lord Krsna, God himself, so we can be guided. He tells us, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively. We must approach a bona fide spiritual master And we must understand and know the qualification of a bona fide spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. It is further recommended in the Mundaka Upanishad, to understand the transcendental science, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. Thus, this method of submissively receiving transcendental confidential knowledge is not merely based on mental speculation. In this regard, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami, in the course of traversing the universal creation, we, the living entities, while traveling in this material body, this material machine, in the course of traversing in the universal creation of Brahma, this creation of Lord Brahma, this universe, some fortunate soul may receive the seed of bhakti, lata, the creeper of devotional service. This is by the grace of Guru and Krishna. The material world is a place of confinement for the living entities who are by nature ananda maya, pleasure seeking. They actually want to be free from the confinement of this world of conditional happiness, but not knowing the process of liberation, they are bound to transmigrate from one species of life to another and from one planet to another. In this way, the living entity are wandering throughout the material universe. When by good fortune one comes in contact with a pure devotee and hears from him patiently, he begins to follow the path of devotional service. Such an opportunity is offered to persons who are sincere. So the living entity, as we're traveling in this universe, we want freedom from suffering. We are seeking for joy and happiness. So when one comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, through oral reception, hearing from him the science of pure devotional service, descending, coming from God, he's able to introduce us God. And how does he introduce God to us? Through his holy names, through his pastimes that are eternal, that we can meditate. And now our mind, which has been so focused in this material dimension, can be redirected when we hear the glories of God. So our spiritual master, he's called Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa means a traveling saint. Jagad Guru means spiritual master of the whole world. Because he represents God. His teaching is all-encompassing because it is about God's message to us to be going back home to the kingdom of God. And the key is the science of love of God, pure devotional service. It means our meditation will be now focused upon the transcendental world that is eternal, not touched by this miserable world. So, our longing for what is eternal, previously, it's focused upon the temporary. Now we can be assured that what we're doing, what we're engaging in, based upon our true nature, a spirit soul, eternal, undying, primeval, will exist eternally, can be now focused without doubt in what is eternal. And what is eternal? My relationship with God. And what is eternal? The transcendental world of pure devotional service, of loving relationship with the Supreme Person. But to know more about Him, we must listen from someone who knows Him, who can give us and teach us the science, how we can be going and moving in this path one-pointedly. And He guides us so we will not be swayed or diverted. He gives us a process that will connect our life, our heart, with the Supreme Protector, Lord Krishna, the Holy Names, So the process in this age of Kali Yuga is very clear. To be protected by God, one should be always chanting and glorifying God. And it is also described in Psalm. O Lord, save me by your name. I will sing and praise your name. So when you sing and praise the names of God, His qualities, God, we become purified and we are able to experience this descending process of God coming down to us, embracing us. And through hearing about the pastimes of the Supreme Person in His glories, our mind, which is very fickle, very stubborn, can be satiated when it's now directed upon the Supreme Purifier, the Supreme Protector, the source of joy. Because the process itself will protect us. So we are advised here through our discussion that we must be very careful whom to follow. Because in this world, when we come here, there are so many individuals here who wants to guide us. But most of them, they are blind and they don't know God. And they want to give their opinion to us. Just like we're all in this jail. And someone who is also in prison here, not only in prison, blind, tries to give us advice how we can get out of this jail, this ocean of misery and ocean of death and this desert, this hot desert where we're always thirsty. So we must be very careful. We're all selfish. We're very selfish. But here, this selfishness can be transcendental. That our selfishness can be used to protect us. That we should not follow someone and listen to someone who is also blind and imprisoned in this material world. So, how can we know a bona fide spiritual master? Is it what we have discussed, that sitting on the Vyasa-san is not enough? How do we see the spiritual master? When a person opens his mouth, the sound vibration that is coming from his mouth, we can know if that person is a donkey or a monkey or a great saintly person by what he teaches. You can see the bona fide spiritual master through oral reception. And here, Lord Krsna tells us, Lord Chaitanya tells us, that if we come in contact with someone who is his representative, we must hear this science. And now, in this lifetime, we have come in contact with this disciplic succession coming from God Himself, from our instructing spiritual master. And the teachings they're teaching is not just based upon their imagination, but rather it is absolute and eternal. And we can check it through three bases. Number one, scriptures. What are scriptures? It is the written word of God. Like Lord Vyasadeva put into writing the Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam, when he was very sad and morose and dejected after writing the Vedas. Narada Muni came to him, his spiritual master, and gave him an advice to write the eternal pastimes of the Supreme Person. That's why now, through the disciplic succession, we can receive what is transcendental, the eternal pastimes of God, through oral reception, put into writing by the instructing spiritual master. And through the kindness, through the love of the instructing spiritual master, especially our grandfather spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, the dearmost life of our spiritual master, put into writing in English, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pastimes of the Supreme Person. So through hearing from the bona fide source, we can experience connection with what we should be listening, engaging in. The pleasure of the Supreme Person, His desire, His embrace, and the heart's desire, what we're longing for, can now be satisfied when we give oral reception. It is like a plant that is planted, a seed that is planted in our heart. And this seed, when we take care of it, by listening, by following the process, watering the seed with the water, the holy names of God, the seed will grow and will fructify. But while the plant is growing, because we are in this material world, there will be many weeds growing. And not only that, there will be many animals there who can be there, like the goats, the elephants, who can trample and step on that small plant that is growing. So we're advised to protect it. So they teach us the science, how we can protect this seed of bhakti in our heart, how we water it. So the more we chant, the more we are progressing, the more we begin to have a taste for chanting the holy names. And that's a sign of progress. It gives us happiness. It gives connection to the heart. Not only that, it purifies the mind. The heart becomes peaceful because it's connected with the source of happiness, Lord Krishna, Govinda. So when we meditate, hearing the holy names of God, as advised by our Gurudev, advised by Lord Chaitanya, then we can be connected with the source of joy. And that can be seen through our personal experience. Our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, at the young age, till the time he left this planet, he's chanting the holy names. The holy names is not different from God. In this material world, the sound or the sound water is different from the substance water. If you're thirsty, you say water, water, your thirst won't be quenched. You have to get the object water and drink it. Put it in your mouth, so your lips, your tongue can be quenched. You have a pill in your stomach. But with the holy names of Krishna, all we have to do is be safe in following the description and the teaching of Scripture and the past saintly person. And we can hear instruction from the instructing spiritual master who are pure loving servants of God. And not only that, have a personal spiritual master who can teach us, who is empowered by God, the Lord from the outside. Because now we're so covered, it's hard to, in the beginning, we cannot distinguish between the Lord within the heart, the instruction coming from God, between the mind and the desire. It's very hard. But you always say, I change my mind and I desire to serve and love you. But after a while, you begin to, I don't love you anymore. I have no desire to love you anymore. I have to get out of your presence and do my own thing. So we are not able to differentiate. We're thinking we are the desire. We connect our life with the desire and the mind and the false ego of what our goal would be, which is completely not in harmony with our true eternal nature as eternally the loving servant of God. False ego means false bodily identification, false lordship, and so many imperfection and tricked by Maya of this selfish motive grossly or subtly. You can check that, how we relate to one another. In the material world, what is love is a perverted way of relating to one another. I love you because I want you. I want to get something from you. I love you because you're convenient. I can take shelter of you. You can feel my heart's happiness. But that's not real love. It's perverted. What we must understand is what is inseparable from us, our transcendental true nature. And not only that, love is inseparable from us. Service is inseparable from us. So that must be directed on the transcendental platform, connected with the desire of God. So the whole study program we're doing is to be resituated back in our natural world of rendering loving service to God. But the mind, due to conditioning, have no taste for that. That's the reason we have this gross body. Every time you do something, the mind, it's like, it's cream or, it goes against the grain. But if you sit down, look, why do you have this body, which is the cause of suffering? Because you follow the dictates of the mind. And what are those inside the mind? The desire. And what are desires? A promise of happiness. And how do you do that? What is your meditation? Whom do you follow? The senses. Because our experience of happiness in this world is flickering happiness. And because we are not able to understand what is joy within, that is eternal, we try to find a fulfillment through the material senses by trying to eat, suck, embrace this material energy through our senses. So actually, in a way, when a person we talk about perversion. Everybody in this material world is a pervert. We talk about, you're a homosexual, you're a tomboy, anyone who is covered by material body, identifies himself as the body, is a pervert. Who can disagree with that? Because our true nature is very eternal, spiritual energy, life, not dead body, not matter. Then we can have this clear understanding. Now we can be very focused in giving our life, our love, eternally to the supreme lovable person. Then when we chant, we encounter this presence of the supreme person, his embrace and love for us. We see now differently. We don't blame God anymore. This material body that we have, it's God's grace upon us. We can use this body to be close with God. How? The the senses are very strong. The mind is very strong. And it's been directing us for so long. But when our heart is focused upon serving and loving God, and with His help, we can connect our desire in pleasing Him. Now we can use this body and offer it back to Him. But a person who is so covered, who tries to find happiness in the source of misery, this body, he'll have a hard time. So you can check. We must be very intelligent. That the source of happiness we're longing for is not this body, but rather our heart, our love. To have an eternal, stable, continual relationship with someone. And that person who can address that is Govinda, Krsna, the all-attractive Supreme Person. But we cannot enter that world with our mind because the mind is made of matter. That's why we are now receiving the science coming from Parampara, the description of the glories of God that is going on eternally. In the beginning, we are not able to appreciate. Just like in the beginning, when there's this, this mirror, you cannot see your true identity or let's put it very bluntly, your face. If the mirror, in Madana, Mohana Academy, we have 4 big mirrors there, taller than you. But you cannot see your face because all the girls goes there, and some of the boys there look at and the mirror is so hazy you cannot see your face. And they put, snot there and everything, So when you clean that mirror, the mirror of the mind, you begin to see, wow. You begin to see yourself as the witness of what's happening. How come? And you ask this question, will I be in this environment wherein I am a different energy but so encumbered, suffering, birth, death, disease, and knowledge? And where can I repose, direct my heart, my love, where there is stability and eternality? And how can I be caring and loving for the person I love? We have become so engrossed. Not only that, with this false ego, we think, my son, my daughter, how can I help them? First, help yourself. Because one time, there's this father who came to this gathering. And this gathering, he wanted his son to become a devotee. He wanted his son to be saved, to be protected. And Srila Prabhupada said to him, why not you first, and then take care of your son? And how can we take care of the person or individual we love? With understanding the science and living the world, the life of engaging in our true nature as eternally the loving servant of God. That's why the first commandment is connected with the second commandment. Love the Father with thy whole heart, thy whole mind, thy whole being. And second unto that is love your neighbors and everyone as yourself. It becomes spontaneous and natural. It's not just his son, his daughter. We're so selfish. We think, my son, this form, she looks like me. And what you do? You make him look like you. You wear short pants, she wears short pants. He has this hair on his head. You put also like that, It's a duplication. That's false ego. That person is not the body. He's the person inside the body. So the only way you can help a person is to free him from death, to give him real happiness. And this science coming from God is the proper, right answer and solution to expressing your love and care for someone you love. And it must be based upon wisdom, loving the person inside the body. That when you say, I love you, the spiritual master tells us, I love you. And it touches your heart. Someone who is a materialist, who is in body identification, sings song and tells, I love you. You love me? What do you love for me? My eyes? My teeth? My face? You just want to eat me, man. You really love me? You said my teeth are so shining. Okay, this denture I'll give to you. Love it. You can chew on it. It's all conditional. What is unconditional? When you understand and experience and be touched by the saving grace of Krishna's love for you through the holy names, His gift, then you begin to love. Then you experience in your heart how sweet it is to love. But in material life, how painful is it to love? But actually, it's not love, it's lust. Because she dies, you're not able to satisfy him. And in your life together, you just gripe and blame one another. In the end, you don't want to see this witch face and this ogre face. And if only, you can make it to rewind and not be with this witch or this ogre. You'll do it. Be intelligent. Understand your true nature. Understand what you're longing for. It is about the eternal loving relationship that has been stopped when we decide to do our own will, to play Lord. Now Krishna's giving us this opportunity, a learning lesson. Don't touch the fire, you'll get burned. So it's up to you. You want a relationship in this world and embrace dead bodies? Yeah? Wherein you're always worried about death. It's just besides us, And now, COVID may be besides you. It's a world of anxiety, man. So, what is that world that has no anxiety? The spiritual world, the world of loving God that is eternal. And when Krishna assures us, to those who are constantly devoted unto me, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. Declare it boldly, my devotee never perishes. He will always be there to embrace you. He's the supreme controller. But that embrace now will be a very soothing embrace because it will touch your heart. It will give you comfort, assurance. Yes, I'm secured under His lotus feet, under the guidance of my spiritual master. So, think about it. Gauge it in your life. Whom will you follow? Whom will give you advice? So, the advice here, find a bona fide spiritual master who is a resident of the spiritual world, who is a maidservant of Radha and Krishna, who can introduce us to Krishna, His dearmost friend. So that is the opportunity we have in this lifetime while traveling in this material world, in this machine. So now you have this opportunity, time, you have this body. You either use it to be connected and take this great fortune and wealth that is there, or you just waste it and throw it into the abyss, into oblivion. So that is the choice you can make. Haribol Namaste.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namane Mohana Swarupaya Radha Krishna Pastimes. Jaya Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare Hare. Siddhaswarupananda.